So that's what a popular, badass fucking mayor would do. They would eliminate the sexist language in the charter. They would make sure that instant runoff voting is hereby authorized forever and ever. They would make sure that the police chief, fire chief, the chief clerk, the information technology department, the treasury, every single head of all the departments are democratically elected, and then they would institutionalize the charter convention. Every 10 years, you're going to have a charter convention. Every 10 years. Every 10 goddamn years, you're going to have a charter fucking convention, Pueblo City. You're going to have a charter convention this year, and then in 10 years, you're going to have another one, and then in 10 years later, you're going to have another one.
We need to try to attract people here. It is so expensive now. You know how expensive it is to live in Denver. That's why people are actually coming to Pueblo. That's why right now the housing market, it's hard to find a house to buy. I mean, that's shocking. When was the last time that happened in Pueblo, Colorado?
Which is the home of the navigator who flew with my brother before he was killed. This is a state which has sent men to die in every section of the world. And also here in the state of West Virginia, you have to have courage to work in the basic industry of this state, coal mining. 8 West Virginians die in the coal mines of this state every month.
Our freeway every year. How many do we get? Tourism is a $13 billion industry in the state of Colorado. Why doesn't Pueblo, Colorado get their share? I'll tell you what happened. When Walmart built a store out in Pueblo West, the city of Pueblo lost $1 million a year of revenue in sales tax. We've had a lot of leakage. People shop in Colorado Springs. Now they're shopping out in Pueblo West.
13,328 ballots, 7,352 Democrats, and about 6,000 Republicans and Democrats. So again, there's about 1,400 more Democrats than both Republicans and Independents in Pueblo City. And if you're to take 5% of the total ballots, the 13,328, that's what you're going to need in order to overthrow the government electorally, in order to do the same thing that Gradisar did to the city manager. To get yourself a badass mayor, you need to get 666 signatures, and that's all you need to do is get an initiative. The initiative is sacred in Colorado. If the people, 5 people get the required forms, if 5 people go around and get themselves 700 signatures, assuming nobody else votes, which they will, even if we say 30,000 people vote, that still is only 1,500 signatures. So all you need to do, you're going to have to go out and get 1,500 signatures, and then you could change the entire government the way that the strong mayor destroyed the city manager.
Okay. So if you target your economic activities, you put it in the hands of people that'll spend it. They're going to spend that money here. When it's like when the mill when it was booming and people were out there buying boats and trailers and motorcycles and those kind of things. When they got money, they spent it in this community.
So you could actually change the entire government, not by charter convention anymore. You could change the government every year because all you need is 1,500 votes. So Pueblo City, if you don't like your city, if you don't like the government, if you don't like how things are being ran, all you need to do is get 1,500 votes, and then you can completely change the entire system of government. You don't like 3 branches? Well, get yourself 4 branches. You don't like how there's only, a little bit of people voting? Well, make a law and pass it to where you get everybody to vote. If you don't like how the money's being redistributed, well, hell, don't even have a government and just pass the taxes out to everybody. Everybody gets a check from Pueblo City, and you have no government. All you got is subsidized people, and they're going to have to learn to get along with each other.
These people are tough and hard. They've lived in the mountains. They're probably more descendants of American Revolutionary soldiers here in West Virginia than in any state of the country. George Washington said many years ago, "Let me plant a banner in those mountains, and I will set men free." This is a state that deserves an opportunity. It deserves recognition from our federal government. Last night I was in McDowell County. That county produces more coal than any county in the world.
You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Every year, 1,500 signatures, get an initiative on the ballot, and electorally overthrow the government. Change it however you want to. There's Section 2 of Colorado's Constitution, which says you have a right to violent revolution. This is peaceful revolution. This is peaceful, constitutional, electoral revolution. And this is so much better. A convention, all the people get together, we all write the rules, and then we all know what the rules are, and you make the rules so simple and easy that everybody knows what the fuck is going on. That would be amazing. That would be so fucking revolutionary, it's not even funny.
5 different times during that time when we did balance the budget through attrition. Did services suffer? Absolutely. Who provides the services to you? People. And so, unfortunately, we've had to balance the budget on the back.
So one more time, all you need is 1,500 votes to the max and 700 votes to get yourself an initiative and to design the entire government of Pueblo City how you want to design it. You can do that year in and year out. They didn't do it charter conventions, so they didn't consolidate this thing. This thing is just barely floating. It's just barely sitting, you know. It could be, you know, just change it. If you got a rickety rowboat, why don't you get yourself a nice speedboat, you know? Just because you change boats, you don't have to go with the new, you know, change. If people are changing diapers and they use the dirty, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be no good. You need to get better. You need to improve. And these are not progressives. These are regressives. So when they make, essentially, they're not going to do shit about the poverty. They're going to have a bunch of, you know, corporate welfare. So they're going to give out money for the welfare, for corporate welfare queens. They got a zoo. They got a golf course. So they're in the golf business, they're in the zoo business, but they talk about, you know, Lori Weiner, she said that she didn't want to get into the homelessness business. Well, you are the fucking government. If you're not helping us, what the fuck do we even need a government for? What the fuck? You're not going to get into the homelessness business? What about the war on poverty business? What about a working class action plan for working class families? What about the municipal internet business? What about municipal electricity business? Are we even going to get that? That's the only slightly progressive thing that Gradisar is even talking about. We got 2 golf courses, so we're in the golf business. We're in the zoo business. We don't mind giving homes to chimpanzees, just not to the Puebloan people. So Pueblo produces these piece of shit fucking criminals, and they're poor, and they're mean, and they're shitty, and they're drug dealers, and they keep on reproducing, you know, like goddamn rabbits. They go to the school doesn't teach them, they revert right back to their old habits of criminality and drug dealing and crime. You could legalize the drugs, all the drugs, and put them all out of business. You could solve it right then and there. And then also you could fix the public education. But instead of doing that, they're going to sit there and act like they're clever. I don't get into the homelessness business. Yeah, if you don't get into the helping people business, if you don't get into the help the Pueblo people business, then you don't need to be in government at all. You ain't got no business being in government.
$1 a year to promote Pueblo.
So in order to get the strong mayor on the ballot, you had to get initiative. You had to go out and get signatures. How many signatures? They got about 1,000, maybe 2,000 signatures. That's all it took for them to completely overthrow the government. So strong mayor got passed. There's been the first round of election last November, and now January 22nd. January 22nd, we're going to see what happens next. So that's when the second round to the 2-round system is actually going to be voted on. So who's going to win, Noraki or Gradisar? Gradisar or Noraki? So they manufactured this bullshit, you know, majority winner takes all. If Steve Noraki wins, then doesn't that mean that the majority person who won the most votes, Nick Gradisar, didn't win? Yeah, that's so stupid. That's Dennis Flores' kind of argument, right? If you have a runoff system, the whole idea is that you had 16 candidates, so the 2 top ones, they were the 2 top ones, but you don't know if you would have cut those 14 out, how those 2 would have fared against each other. So instant runoff voting is just like the system now, but instead of just having 2 runoffs, you could have had 5, 6, 7, depending on how many, choices. Pick your candidates from 1 to 5, 1 to 10. If you picked from 1 to 10, then you would have had 10 runoff elections in an instant. If you would have picked 1 to 5, you would have 5 runoff elections in an instant. That's what they did not want. They did not want to be fair to the independents. They didn't want to be fair to the Greens or the Libertarians. They are cheaters. The Republicans and the Democratic Party in Pueblo City, mostly the Democrats, because the Democrats are the one that's running everything, but they're fucking cheaters. And they essentially... Noraki and Gradisar might as well pull down their goddamn panties and shat in the faces of every single Puebloan in Pueblo City, adults, elderly, children, everybody. They ruined it. what Gradisar and Noraki said to Pueblo City. Fuck you, Pueblo City. Fuck you ever getting a right and proper and fair democracy. They had a chance to do it, but they didn't. So, like the stuck-up, worthless city clerk's office business, the bureaucracy business, the helping pay their friends and family in a bloated administration business, yeah, that's the business they're in. Fucking zoo business, Riverwalk business, and a golf business. They got 2 golf courses. That's the most important fucking thing right there. Who gives a shit if you got all those poor kids? Who gives a shit? When I think about the poor kids, there is a white, blue-eyed kid named William who is the son of a prostitute, lives on Spruce Street. Now, he doesn't live on Spruce Street. He's the son of the prostitute who just happened to have a temporary home in Spruce Street right next door. Now, the prostitute didn't get killed in Ricky Munez's alley because I had intervened. She screamed about 5 minutes. Nobody gave a shit about her getting her ass kicked. But when I tried to clean a tree up, they fucking shit a brick. But this poor prostitute's getting her ass kicked in Ricky Munez's alley right next to Spruce Street. And she's got a 3-year-old named William. William is a white boy with blue eyes. So people, I heard that there's no such thing as homeless white kids. Yeah, there is. There's 3-year-old William. So when I think about the 800 kids that are homeless, I think about 3-year-old William. What chance does 3-year-old William have? His mother's a prostitute who's all methed out, and then she has no place to go, so she's whoring herself out for $20 here and there. And the man that she's relying on doesn't have his own home, has to sleep in a car outside in an overcrowded, tiny hole, lots of rat home. And her man is all meth and cracked out too. So what chance does this 3-year-old William have being the son of a prostitute, meth whore, who's in love with a meth whore? So both of these candidates are pro-capitalist, pro-corporate welfare, pro-Petco, the business of exports. They're all about that. They just don't give a shit about 3-year-old William. They don't give a shit about the prostitute. They don't give a shit about the criminal. In fact, the criminal knows how to play Pueblo City. Just run here, go fucking do whatever crimes they want to do, and just keep on doing it. Never fucking stop it. Always hurting from the beginning to the end. The only thing that'll fix homelessness is a shelter. Get them a fucking shelter. Food, water, clothing, shelter. If you're born in Pueblo City, if you're born and raised in Pueblo City and you graduated from Pueblo City schools and you're not getting any shelter, you should be so fucking pissed at your leadership. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you.
A cultural or scientific district the way that Denver does in order to create some general revenue locally, tax revenue for what you're talking about?
Well, it might be that we have to work ourselves into that. I'm not convinced that we have to do that now. So I wouldn't be prepared to say I would support something like that. We certainly need to use some of that tourism money to promote the creative corridor because those people are bringing people in. The Art Center is bringing people in from from surrounding areas. So that tourism money can be used for those kind of purposes.
They say no getting into the homeless business. Lori Weiner said that, a right-wing nut job, and both Gradisar and Nawraki are saying the same shit. They're not going to get into the homelessness business. You're not in it to make money. If you could make it a business, I had a 5-star homeless shelter plan, and you could essentially have them sell marijuana. Marijuana is legal in Colorado, so you can make it a self-sustaining homeless spot where they work for themselves, where they have their own business, and they can work themselves up on out of that spot. So give them a shelter, give them some clothing and warm food and water. That's not a business. That's called giving a shit about people. And if we're all just here to make a bunch of fucking money, what do we need government for? They don't just need to make a bunch of fucking money like the private corporations. Let them start a private corporation. Just having goddamn government making as much fucking money as they possibly fucking can. Fuck you. You help us, government. You're our leadership. And the consent of the governed, we don't even have true democracy. So leadership, you better do as the fuck as we want. You better help us. If you don't help us, you shouldn't exist. You're just here to hurt us? Nah, we don't need you. We can run this. The working class people run this whole world anyways.
Living in poverty, especially the kids, 20%, 25% of adults, there are so many needs in terms of providing human services. And I think that would be a luxury that we probably would not be able to afford. But I think the patrons in this community are incredible in terms of what they do to support those organizations, the Art Center, the zoo, and I think that we need to do more of that. We need to support that. We do support the Art Center. We do support the zoo. We do support the Riverwalk. All those things are attractions, and we use government money to help them.
For my 5-star homeless shelter plan, you got to have a spot for the families, for the veterans, for the drug dealers. There's cheap land all around, cheap housing, cheap land. You also got the human capital. You can help them help themselves. Work on these public health issues better. So you can have one point person, a czar for the 5-star homeless shelter, have 1 point up here for the veterans, one down here for the families, one here for the drug problem. So you can have, a point person for everybody, a Pedco point person, a information technology point person, a police point person.
Plan. Can you tell us a little bit about where you see Pueblo's brand going if you were elected?
Well, I mean, Pueblo's always been the Steel City and the home of heroes, and I think that's worked for us pretty well. I'm not one who thinks that labels or branding is necessarily the end-all and be-all. I think what you need to do is market your amenities and let people know what Pueblo's about. So as the mayor, I'll be out there talking about what Pueblo's about, and I don't think it matters much what you call it. But it's important that we let people know what's here.
Pueblo City has a Department of Housing. In fact, America's got a Department of Housing. What the fuck is that Department of Housing doing? They haven't even got housing for the 500,000 homeless. There's lots of homeless in every city. It is a national issue, which means somebody has got to do something about it, which means the local, state, or feds got to do something about it. Just sitting there saying it's a national issue, putting it off on them as if, no, it's your fucking problem too. It's all the government, every single one, local, state, federal, all the government's problems when there's no fucking housing. Your kids don't have food, water, clothing, or housing. You better raise some fucking hell. You better find some fucking place to get them some goddamn shelter, or you're a bad parent.
This city needs to grow. We need to grow towards Colorado Springs. We need to have more houses being built. We need to support our builders. We need to support developers. I think that kind of partnership is good, but
Better paying jobs, bring more industries in here so that people are being paid better. I mean, that's what I think you do, is you have higher wages for people that are working so that they're able to put more money in their pocket. And, it's obviously not just a Pueblo problem. Pueblo is a big problem, but it's a nationwide problem where you have this income inequality.
The strong mayor only makes the mayor a popularly elected position, not the police chief or the fire chief or the chief clerk or all the other heads of the 50 departments. They got 50 departments, and none of them actually work for the working class people. Police chief, fire chief, chief clerk. So these folks can be elected. In the county of Pueblo, the sheriff is elected, and the clerk, they're all elected in the county. They have a ton of elected positions in the county, but for the city, all you got is just a couple city council folks and a mayor. So you could have actually made all these positions democratically elected. You could have actually had a popular government, but instead you're not going to get a good, great, or popular mayor, or a peaceful, or loving, or caring, or kind. So what the fuck are we doing? There's no affordable housing in Pueblo. The Department of Housing ain't doing shit. They're just jerking each other off on the taxpayer dime. I bet all these departments are wasteful. They ain't doing shit. There's no affordable housing in Pueblo City, lots of homeless. What the fuck is the Department of Housing in Pueblo City doing?
Thank you, Mr. Gredisar.
Yeah, I think we need to increase the economic activity, as I said in my opening remarks, in Pueblo if we're going to be successful. One of the ways you handle the budget is the budget is a number, and you balance the budget by not filling vacancies, and that's what the city's done for a number of years.
Even though both are opposed to the war on drugs, neither one of them will fight or legalize the war on drugs. So don't expect instant runoff voting. Don't expect the war on poverty. Don't expect the working class people to have a chance. Don't expect the war on drugs to be ended. This is Nixon. The Democrats run Pueblo City, but they look at Nixon and they say, yes, Nixon, war on drugs is good. We'll keep on doing this failed policy.
They've funded positions in the budget, but they've never fill those positions, so they're not paying the money out.
we need to try to attract people here. It is so expensive now. You know how expensive it is to live in Denver. That's why people are actually coming to Pueblo. That's why right now the housing market, it's hard to find a house to buy. I mean, that's shocking. When was the last time that happened in Pueblo, Colorado?
I think both of them seem competent enough. I have to choose the lesser of the two evils. So, like Hillary versus Donald, Donald was clearly the lesser of the two evils, and Steve Noraki is clearly not. So it would be Gradisar who's the lesser of the two evils, but I cannot say that these are good candidates. They're the, lesser of the two evils.
Inventories are down. We need more buildings. We need to support the business community. Pueblo needs to be open for business. We need to open our doors. We need to make it easier to do business, and that'll help bring about more revenue. But we need to diversify our community.
I think it's kind of crazy that Nick Gradisar has to defend himself for renting out one of his buildings to some government thing that he was running. And so here we have a president who pays himself lavishly, pays himself at the Secret Service, pays himself at Mar-a-Lago, pays himself all over the place, renting out his buildings here and there, charging it all to the American people. And then one time this local politician out in the middle of Colorado somewhere, an issue was pointed out, and he wasn't charged with a crime, nor was he forced to resign because of it. All he said is that if he has a choice of renting to somebody else and losing money, getting half the space for double the price, he's going to do that instead of privately earning anything on his own. And that's some integrity. That's how politicians should be. If you're in public office and you're still running a private business, that means all I got to do is just throw some fucking money at you, and now you're mine. Now you're mine. You're not the people's, you're mine. Specifically mine. I fucking bought you, so you better run my case and then defend me to the best of your goddamn ability.
And I still think gateway to the Southwest, that's the way we're going to be able to have our own character and be able to advertise it, promote it, and want people to come to Pueblo, Colorado.
Mr. Naraki, glad to see that you weren't injured there by
No.
But the 2009 mayor, when it failed, right, then it passed was just last year, 2017, or 2 years ago, a year and 2 months ago, then the system that was changed was a city manager system, which they had since 1950. They had the city charter changed again in 1954 because they changed so many things. They just had to get a new charter afterwards. But 1950 is when they ushered in the city manager system. Everybody was all about corporate CEO. The 1950s, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Marilyn Monroe. This is when the tax rate was 90%, and so America was spending a shit ton of money on itself, on roads, infrastructure, schools. So essentially, to stop communism, you have to actually give a shit about your people, because if you don't give a shit about your people, well, how is communism not going to take root? So Eisenhower, the 1950s, 1954, they got a city manager system because they thought that the CEO system of a corporation, you got the board of directors, well, you got 5, 6, 10 guys, and then you got the CEO. And the CEO runs the show until the board of directors says, you get the fuck out of Dodge. That's the only power that the board of directors has, in fact, is choosing the CEO and then firing that piece of shit CEO when they're not doing what the hell they need to do. So that's the power of the board. So that's what city council used to be and the city manager used to be. So the city manager was not elected. The city council was elected, a body of 7 people. So once those 7 people was elected, then once they were elected, they would pick the city.
I'm glad it wasn't steel.
We're going to move on now. We're running low on time, so we're going to move on to some direct questions. This is for individual candidates here, but we're going to begin with Mr. Naraki. You and I had a conversation a few years ago about CSAC, the Citizens or the Community Service Advisory Commission, and essentially this is a function of city and county government where taxpayer money supports local nonprofits in the community. To tell the people of Pueblo about that arrangement who might have some questions about your independence as mayor.
Well, I think as mayor, I would support funding nonprofits through CSAC 100%. And by the way, if you remember, Andy, that since
a better way than just raising taxes is to get a gas station, get a hospital, get a McDonald's, make profits, actually earn it. So you have a golf course, you got 2 golf courses. Not only do you have 2 golf courses, which nobody uses, it's right there in the middle of town, and it's so dangerous when you're driving by, no telling how many cars have gotten hit with golf balls. So you got these golf courses where these golf balls are just being, thrown in the air and possibly hitting the passing cars. But they don't make no fucking money. The zoo ain't making no goddamn money. The golf course ain't making no money. Buy a gas station. Regulate all the other gas stations. Buy the hospital. Buy a McDonald's. Make profits. Get that municipal electricity or get that municipal internet. Municipal internet will be better for the people than municipal electricity unless they get solar power. If they get solar power with municipal electricity, that's how they should do it.
However, you as the director of a nonprofit, your nonprofit was receiving the largest share of that money, even while you were on the city council. Now, you told me at the time you weren't a part of the vote on that, but I want you to see if there's something you'd like to...
So Nick Gradisar, he's talking about raising internet sales. He's for a tax cut for the middle class, not for the rich. That's how he's going to help the middle class. That's how he's going to help the poor. He's going to give you all a tax cut, right? Yeah, right. That's not going to help the working classes or the poor or the homeless. So he definitely supports a tax cut for the middle class. Nick Gradisar is like a moderate Democrat, a JFK and Obama. He's no FDR. He's not a Huey Long. He's not a Tulsi Gabbard. He's not a Bernie Sanders. So Nick Gradisar has been in the private market. He's Mr. Corporation. He loves the business community. He only cares about corporations are, you know, once the people vote for him, then he's going to go ahead and bow down to the corporate, the altar of corporate welfare.
The city staff has that mentality, and that we'll have that customer service model as we move forward in the community.
I want to ask a follow-up question for both of you there, because you both talk about growing revenue, and I know that there's been a lot of talk about sales tax, and in order to grow revenue, we need people to buy more things in the city.
So it's sort of a shell game in that fashion is how they've done a lot of that. So we have to increase the revenues. You know, I think we need to look at additional sources of revenues. Maybe we need to look at, and the United States Supreme Court just basically recently said that, you know, states and local governments might be able to get a tax on internet sales.
But the reason why I say Gradisar is the lesser of the two evils between Gradisar and Noraki. Of course, Noraki is one who gnaws on rocks, and Gradisar is one who graduates as a czar. So when he graduates as a czar, this guy has been in the private capitalist market the whole time. He's been able to make a living being a lawyer, so charging people this and that, you know, for what the fuck ever. We're all honorary capitalists in this game, but if you get a government job, if you get a nice, comfortable government job, right, then you can sit on your fat, lazy ass, have contempt for the one or two people who come into your office and because they're actually making you do something for a goddamn change. Right? If you're just a worthless fucking piece of shit government bureaucrat, a motherfucking fat ass, lazy fucking government bureaucrat, and you're just sitting on your fat ass not helping anybody out, that's no good. Gradisar had to scrape and fight, and he got himself a career. So when it comes to his lack of socialism, when it comes to the solution, Pueblo City, I've already solved this for you. Pueblo City, you got get some capitalism and get some socialism. Make sure that all the government programs that's in the feds in this state, that all the poor people know what's up. Streamline all those government services. There's some socialist plan. Put that as a little asterisk under the socialist plan for helping Pueblo City. And then have yourself a capitalist plan. You need some capitalism, you need some socialism. We've already figured this out. We got public schools, public roads, we got public libraries. These are taxpayer-funded things for the whole community. And I enjoy these amenities. And even if you didn't enjoy the amenities, you know, it's, I don't know, good for the parks. You get parks.
In the public sector, sometimes it's, well, why should we do this today? Let's wait until tomorrow kind of attitude. And I think we need to really emphasize to the people that are providing services that we need to work hard, and the citizens of this community expect that, and I'm committed to making sure that.
So what I'm saying is that America's already solved this problem. We're half capitalist and half socialist anyways. If you get Social Security, you're literally a socialist, a card-carrying socialist. We've already figured this out. Half capitalist, half socialist. You got the damn socialists, you got the parks, you got the damn schools, you got the post offices, roads and bridges. Jesus Christ, libraries, and you're going to sit there and pretend like, what, government doesn't help, government don't do shit? If you're on Social Security and you're talking that fucking dumb shit, I hope they take your fucking check. Fuck you. You're sitting there taking the money from our fucking pockets, the working class pockets. You take the goddamn money and you put it into your pocket, and then you sit there and vote against you and everybody else. Mitch McConnell is talking about cutting Social Security. Yeah, these old baby boomers get Social Security. We're not going to get Social Security. They are robbing us. They're taking our fucking money.
You know, now, those of you who shop online might not like that, because that might make the price of things go up a little bit. But if we could do that and figure out a way to do that, tax internet sales, that would result in additional revenue to the city of Pueblo that we could use to provide these services and fund these programs that are there. In many respects, I think the city's got to get more lean and more mean. I mean, we have to be more flexible. In the private sector, you know, we do that.
Baby boomers don't give a shit about the millennials. They mock the millennials. The millennials need to rise the fuck up. Millennials, fucking vote, will you? God damn it, poor people, fucking vote.
And how we can accommodate them if they want to come here for a convention. Or, you know, obviously, we're about to finish the expansion of the convention center. Hopefully, that'll result in some additional economic activity here.
There are more people on relief in that county than in any county in the country. Now, why should there be 250,000 people living on a subsistence and below subsistence distribution from the federal government who only want to work, 100,000 able-bodied men who want a job and can't find it, who have spent their lives in the coal mines, who have spent their lives underground working in 35 or 40 inches, and who want to get a job again, who want to work. That is the problem of West Virginia. This state...
But that's what I think the mayor's responsibility is to talk Pueblo up wherever the mayor goes and talk about those great things and those fantastic amenities that we have here and try to encourage people to get here. And to the extent that we need to use some of that $1.5 million that we're collecting for tourism to do that, I say we do that.
Electricity throughout this whole eastern seaboard, which is a great power center of America, the great industrial center, that we develop the great recreational facilities of West Virginia, that we make it the people's playground, that we give our young people a chance to work in the forests and out in the public lands and the parks in a youth conservation corps program, that we spend time and money upon conservation. All of this is an asset. All of this is an investment in the future.
Thank you.
We want to switch gears now and talk about each of your visions for the city of Pueblo. And since you're both going to have to hit the ground running, so to speak, here we are in a runoff election already into what would have been the first year of your term. Can you tell the people of Pueblo, Mr. Gradisar, how will you set up your administration?
But it had been the end of 2017, so November 2017, the so-called strong mayor plan was initiated. Pueblo City had first been, not first, they had a mayor at first, actually. They had about 20-something mayors at first, and then it became a ceremonial position after the first charter convention.
That is worthy of the respect of the American people will move into action with private industry and with labor and with the local communities to find new jobs, to retrain workers, to provide for new industries, and to diversify the economy. It is equally true that a government has a responsibility, not the total responsibility, but a responsibility to the total economy.
Well, I mean, there's not obviously much of a transition time. So we spent some time thinking about the transition, trying to meet with some department heads in the city of Pueblo, find out from them what the challenges are from their perspective, from inside. I think we need to set up
of the nation. And when you break that down, you make it into the respective jurisdictions, such as our states. Now, West Virginia's problems, as I indicated in my opening statement, are characteristic of this country. In fact, I might say that I wish that the television camera that has become so much a part of the American scene would not only focus upon certain areas of West Virginia where there is unemployment and distress, but that it would find its way in.
It's mostly Hispanic folks and white folks, so it's about 50-50, brown and white, and hardly no black people at all in Pueblo City. They're racist as shit. They're so fucking racist that when Barack Obama came into town, they fired their mayor. They fired their mayor for inviting Barack Obama, and guess what? politically, say what you want. Should you invite the candidate? Shouldn't you not? Are you showing favoritism? Barack Obama was elected president, so that means Pueblo City would have had a very useful city manager, because that city manager had a relationship with the president, was able to get him into the city and help him get elected. So politically, pragmatically, it would have made more sense to have kept the city manager, whoever was city manager 2008, on board.
Transition team made up of outside people and City of Pueblo people to work on those issues. There's a lot of vacancies that have existed. I think there's been an attitude in the city that let's don't deal with this, we'll just save it for the mayor. So there's a lot of vacancy.
Manager. So if you want to be the king or queen of Pueblo City, you would have to have known that process. You'd have had to have been smart enough to have read the charter to know how this process works. So if you want to run the show, you would have had to have been like Sam Azad. Sam Azad was able to angle himself, and he put himself in that position, and then he was the king for 5 years. He could have been recalled at any time. Pueblo City is the same city that recalled their city manager because the city manager invited candidate Barack Obama to come speak.
For the improvement of economic conditions in our own country. In other words, our ability to maintain our strength abroad will be dependent in no small part upon our capacity to have full production and employment at home with social justice.
Forward so that we can make some realistic economic development efforts.
And that's why I would have supported and do support.
Okay, Pueblo City, pay attention. She's about to get him. She's going to get him good, too.
Of Pueblo. And on that note, Pueblo has a higher rate of poverty than a lot of other cities in the state. And I think those things go hand in hand, that if people have more money to spend, they will spend it. So how do you plan to get people to spend more money when they don't have it to spend?
Well, get them more money. Get them more money.
You see that? She asked, what are you going to do about poverty? And neither one of them really want to take the question. And
how do you plan to get people to spend more money when they don't have it to spend?
Well, get them more money. Get them more money.
An increase in the deduction for the average family, because I think it will lend itself to the health of the economy and compel this government to do justice in the tax laws rather than to continue to spread the benefits to a handful of people who do not need them.
Board in Pueblo City. It'd been better if you would have just kept that city manager on board, because that candidate Barack Obama thing, Donald Trump came in. Nobody got fired when Donald Trump came in, but somebody got fired. The mayor got fired, city manager. So there's poverty, there's homelessness, there's police brutality. There's a lot of shit, crime that Pueblo City could have recalled their city manager on. They had that instantaneous power. Whenever the fuck city council said, get the fuck out of here, mayor, they could have fired them. Now city manager doesn't, now the city council doesn't have that power. There is no city manager. He's going to be on as an advisory role or some shit. But the city manager office is going to be dissolved, and you're going to get a brand new mayor who's popularly elected. So instead of voting for the city council and then they elected him and doing it like the CEO, like a corporate board, now you're doing it basically like a democracy. So the mayor also comes in with the two-round system, the two-round Kyrgyzstan cutthroat election. They could have instituted the most revolutionary, the most fair, the most democratic and fair election ever devised, instant runoff voting, ranked choice voting, but they're too scared of the libertarians. They're too scared of the Greens. They have to cheat in order to win. That's the way these bigwigs have to play it. They have to be elitist sons of bitches.
The steel mill, European history, and the Mexican history have come together and melted together in our community. We need to continue that. I said I was committed to raising $1 million.
So they called this the strong mayor, but the strong mayor, they already had an authoritarian fascist to run shit before, so it wasn't the lack of authoritarian fascism. They had all the authoritarian fascism that they needed in Pueblo City. What they didn't have is a good or great or smart or intelligent mayor. What they didn't have was a just and wise and decent, a peaceful, loving, caring, strong and firm but compassionate kind of mayor, a populist, a progressive populist, a wise, just, good, great, fair, decent, not even decent, just strong, just a goddamn fascist boot in the fucking face of the Pueblo people.